Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. Today we have a 1/24th scale kit that I've been wanting to get my hands on, and that is the Governor Bump Up Expander Collector's Edition from Kotobukiya's Hexa line. Why is it a Bump Up Expander Collector's Edition? Well, let me explain two things then. The first is that this is not the original version of the said Governor. Governor of what? I have no idea. But he is one of the first models that was released in the Hexa line. And the results were alright. They weren't the best, they weren't the worst. So what they later did was they obviously have scaled him up to something far more impressive. As you can see here, he's got a regular basic Hexa guy under his foot. But the star of the Collector's Edition is this ridiculous Gatling cannon saw blade sword thing he's got going on, chain gun swords. Those were released separately, both with the original and with this. So this is the Collector's Edition because, well, those are included. Let's see what's in the box. A lot of stuff for something so small. Okay, as always, we get a nice little postcard. Replacement order sheet, which does you no good if you are not in Japan. We have a color guide and the specific directions. I guess this version only has this head available. You have the directions for the weapons, because again, they were released separately. And then we have the basic instructions. There's a lot going on, and these really are not that big of figures. Obviously it's a 1/24th scale, and you can see that it's going to require a lot of little pieces. That's going to be the belts for the chain guns. Now, sometimes they have pre-painted stuff, sometimes they don't. Oftentimes they have at least nicely separated colors on these, so the painting should be minimal. Looks like more, I don't know what they are. See the size of the sword parts. The actual body pieces. If you're familiar with like the armored puppets of number 57, kind of similar in size. The rubber hands, never been a big fan, but it is what it is, and they are included. Some nice big Magnum pistols, joints, stuff. Looks like the chain gun assemblies, and oh boy, wires for the ammo. So that'll be fun, but actually it should be. I don't think it's going to be too hard. Most of the Hexa stuff that I've built at this point hasn't been too much of a challenge. It's just a little time consuming due to the size of the pieces and obviously not wanting to lose things. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen. We'll get them built. We'll see how it turns out. If you want to see, sit tight. Well, it certainly took me long enough, but we finally got the Bump Up Expander all put together here. Now, it looks quite big and imposing on camera right now, I would assume. But in reality, he's not all that big. Well, he's big by Hexa standard, but that is a 1/144th entry grade Gundam that is barely squeezing his way onto the camera as well. So, considering that our expander friend here is probably close to triple the cost, if not more, than an entry grade. That's something that you need to be aware of prior to going all in on these guys. Outside of that, having built a fair amount of Hexa figures at this point, I feel like in terms of the build, he's a whole lot better. I think just the sheer fact that he's so much substantially larger than the rest of them is absolutely going to play to his advantage. Never mind his ridiculous weapon. I gotta say, actually, the backpack and that expansion weapon set, which I still don't like the fact that it's sold separately, those ammo belts were not that bad to put together. I gotta say, of all the wired pieces that I've had to deal with for various model kits, these really were no trouble at all. I also like the fact that if you don't want to use them, You can completely unattach the weapons. The handles are maneuverable as well, so if you want to use them for whatever nefarious purposes you wish to have, they're good to go. So like I said, the construction of them is a lot more solid. Actual decent joints in there, whereas a lot of the other figures, it's just, you know, you got to build them still, but it's just more the pop the joint in and you're done type deal. Not so with the expander. Now, I should say the bump up expander. This is an updated version of the original figure. This was one of the earlier Hexagear figures. One of the neat things about this guy is, I don't know where I put it now. Okay. He has two very similar, yet different face masks. I guess this one's all kind of carved up. And then he has a human face as well, which is kind of neat. You do tend to see this in a lot of the various Hexagear kits. It's not the first time they've done something similar. Comes with a plethora of hand options as well as these two major hand cannons that are just ridiculously big. In terms of posability, the figure itself is quite nice. Got a lot of movement range to it. Definitely able to sustain a pose much better than the typical smaller figures. I feel like with the smaller guys, the joints do wear out a bit over time. And also, if you are in the market for smaller figures like this, these Hexagear figures work absolutely fantastic with the number 57 armored puppet figures. Again, they're an original range of stuff. They've been slowly creeping up in size. There's a new Sobek kind of Egyptian-themed crocodile figure. I personally like the fossilized mech robot here with the various dinosaur heads, but they pair pretty well with the Hexagear stuff. One of these days, I've said it for a long time to myself, one of these days I'm actually going to get one of the Hexagear mechs that these figures actually can sit in and pilot. They look really neat. The V-Thor being probably my number one choice. It is an inevitability. I can't get that head off now, of course. And I gotta say, even with the big backpack, did I not put that on right? No, I put it on the entirely wrong side. That's better. Those ammo belts are really great for helping him keep his pose. So you can find the right hand here. Where did I put his weapon? Hidden. Wow, that is sharp as well. Something to keep in mind as I stab myself with it. This is the other thing that I can't stand about the Hexagear stuff, is after wanting to change the poses, everything wants to come apart. Alright, there, after fighting with him, you can see, just due to the size, due to the weight, it's going to be a challenge to keep these weapons in any kind of upright pose. And thankfully, you do have the ammo belts to kind of help balance things out. But all in all, I like the figure. This is definitely one of the ones, besides our samurai friend here, that really kind of got my attention with the line, outside of the big mechs, which I have yet to put together. But hopefully someday we can. I mean, honestly, like the V-Thor, I think, is about the size of a master grade. It's a pretty nice looking kit. But so is our friend here, and I think definitely with his weapons attached, very visually unique, imposing, impressive. And this model can actually still, despite the heaviness of those weapons, actually hold it in something of a relatively decent pose. That's also a plus. So, neat figure overall, and hopefully he will have some company in the near future. So with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.